Over the past few weeks, I've seen the same question everywhere. Why are Pokemon card prices falling? What's happening? Is the market crashing? And it is a fair question. I've seen the question being asked by most collectors and investors all over the place. But the more you actually look at the market itself, compare different cards, look through different sold listings, the more I've started to see that that's probably not the right question that is actually being asked. When people ask why prices are falling, they're usually assuming that the biggest problem is that demand is disappearing. And if you still follow the market, you know that's not happening at all. I'm not convinced that's what's happening because everyone is still in huge demand for all Pokemon cards, different eras. I've actually noticed something else that doesn't really quite fit that narrative as well. Some cards are correcting, which means the prices are kind of going back to where they should be after being inflated. Others are barely moving, and still others are actually finding new highs and actually going up, even right now during this time where things kind of seem dire. And the more I look at it, the more it becomes hard to believe that demand alone could explain what I am seeing. Instead, I'm beginning to wonder if what is actually happening is something else entirely. And I definitely don't think it is a demand problem. I think it's an expectation problem. That sounds like a small distinction, but by the end of this, we'll kind of take a look at it and see why that correction in the market during the summer or the summer lull is probably not related to demand diminishing at all. If you look at just a few months ago, consider where the market actually was around fall, winter, right? We had Phantasmal Flames coming out with one of the best chase cards that has ever come out in that Mega Charizard card. Absolutely fantastic. And the price kept increasing from its release, which is not always typically normal, and we've seen that where a big chase card comes out and its price actually goes down, and you're actually seeing it with the big Darkrai card that just came out. But then you had Ascended Heroes come out, and take a look. Ascended Heroes is like the best set in years, right? It has unbelievable chase cards that have come out. And same thing, buying those chase cards, all the values went up, 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 and kept climbing. Which sounds great in theory if you're investing and collecting the cards, right? You want to see the value climb, but that's actually part of the problem. We kind of became accustomed to the price climbing so high, so quickly, 10, 20, 30%, that it didn't really become a surprise anymore when it happened. It became an expectation. And that's one of the biggest problems with where we are in the market today. Our expectation of the market kind of increasing prices became normal, and that's where we see some of the problems actually arise. The problem isn't a demand issue, it's an expectations issue in terms of what the market should do and what we've come to expect of the market itself. A lot of people are saying, oh, demand has plummeted. The last few sets, Perfect Order, Chaos Rising, the newest Pitch Black are terrible. You know, they're completely uninvestable. There's nothing to collect in them. No one cares about them. Don't even bother. But that's not really what's happening, right? Because the prices for the top cards on those sets are still fairly high. Over $100, $200. You still cannot find any of the product on shelves. I mean, anywhere I look, anyone I talk to, you can't find sealed product of any of these sets anywhere. So the problem isn't that the demand is going down. It's that our expectations of what the market should be is the problem itself. And a lot of that has to do with where we were roughly 9 months ago with the release of these Mega Evolution sets. You're seeing some prices come down. That's not abnormal. That's what you would expect. But because some prices aren't rising exponentially as they had been for those two sets in particular, Phantasmal Flames and Ascended Heroes, people are freaking out and panicking, thinking that that is a cause for concern for the market as a whole. Take a look at what the market has looked like here over the last year and a half, because we've had some really big sets, right? Paldean Fates, Prismatic Evolutions, Destined Rivals, and then, of course, the recent two Phantasmal Flames and Ascended Heroes. When people are seeing these huge sets, really popular Pokemon, a lot of desirable cards to collect and invest in, when they see those release and they see the prices are immediately really high, hundreds of dollars or more, then that's going to kind of fuel that type of speculative spirit, I guess, into wanting to collect early and quickly in order to get in before the prices have a chance to correct. And that was really the big fueling behind the hype over the last, year and a half or so, right? You have some of those big chase cards. You have the Bubble Mew card from Paldean Fates. You have the big ones from Destined Rivals, the Mewtwo card. Prismatic Evolutions has all the Evolutions cards to get excited about. And when you have like Prismatic Evolutions where a bunch of the big hit cards are all worth like a few $100 and there's like a dozen of them, that's going to fuel that speculative spirit. So people are going to want to invest in when they know that the sets are going to be really popular with very desirable Pokemon like Ascended Heroes and in Phantasmal Flames. We see a big shift with this once Perfect Order came out, and that began like the trifecta of what people would say are the undesirable sets. But just because these sets are undesirable does not mean that the actual demand for cards has shifted at all. And that's why people are saying, oh, demand has plummeted, no one cares anymore, yada, yada, yada. That's why those takes really aren't accurate. And that's simple, because if you go to any store, you can tell me, have you seen any physical product on shelves? Can you get any sealed product for anywhere near MSRP that isn't like double? I don't think so. You know, you can't get a booster bundle box, the 6-pack boxes, which are usually about $26 for any of the sets, for, you know, near that. I mean, even the ones from Perfect Order are probably over 40, around $50. And that's a set that really no one cares about. Consider the case of what has happened with the Bubble Mew card from Paldean Fates. You could have actually gotten that card for around $100 when it first came out. So it really wasn't this super amazing, incredible chase card because, yes, $100 is expensive, but at the time of its release, it wasn't seen as anything crazy. And now, fast forward roughly a year and a half or so, it's a almost $900 card raw. And I think that speculative spirit behind some of the cards is part of the big problem here, where we expect all of these big chase cards to go super gangbusters in value, but that isn't necessarily what is happening. Consider the big chase card in Chaos Rising, right? The Greninja. That Mega Greninja card started out fairly high, a few $100s, and it's plummeting. It's going way, way down. And that's more indicative of people's feelings on the market, not for demand itself having shifted in any meaningful way. I think that the Mega Greninja card is kind of like the poster child of what is happening in the market presently. In that card came out of the gate very expensive, over $400, and since it's tapered off considerably, like I think it's down almost $200 from out of the gate's high. And that's kind of what you're seeing in the market as a whole, and that has nothing to do with demand. Everyone still loves and wants to collect and invest in Pokemon cards. You still can't buy sealed product. But people are kind of reeling back and kind of being more hesitant with how they're actually, purchasing products and how they're actually, speculating in the market itself. It's kind of surprising that the Mega Greninja card, being Greninja, one of the most popular Pokemon, top 10 certainly, wouldn't be a super high chase card. But there's a lot of factors that kind of go into why that's happening, and that's indicative, again, of everything surrounding the market as a whole. Perfect Order, Chaos Rising, Pitch Black are all kind of looked down upon. After coming off of Ascended Heroes, these are not super, super popular sets, even though you still cannot find any of the sealed product basically anywhere. Not if you want to get it for, like actual MSRP, that is. Which means that people still want these cards, they still want to open them and collect them, just not at the prices that they're currently at. And that's because people have realized that these three sets, unlike the previous two, are really not super, super high value the way that those two were. So people are pulling back and not really buying into them as much, which is bringing the prices down. Which means that the market itself is actually in a fairly healthy place, as opposed to where prices are escalating so astronomically that really no one can buy in, no one can collect. It's even prohibitive for investors to get in on. So that isn't like the worst thing that could be happening to the market right now, especially as we enter this summer lull era, right? Unlike the winter frenzy when everyone's buying gifts, everyone's shopping, that's not what's happening now. People pulled back on their spending. That's fairly typical and normal, and we typically see prices go down during this time period, which is actually fantastic, right? If you're collecting or investing, yeah, now's a wonderful time to actually be able to buy into cards. So people who are freaking out that the values are going down may be freaking out for part of the wrong reasons, because while some of the values may be going down for certain cards, others are climbing or staying stagnant, or fortunately even going down, making them more available for people, and that is a good thing. And then, of course, let's talk about one of the biggest factors that may be affecting all of this right now, and that's the imminent release of the 30th anniversary set, which is coming out in, I think, less than 2 months now. A lot of people are definitely holding back so that they can actually get these products, if you can get these products. I think it's pretty clear that the quantity that is actually being supplied is going to be a lot higher than we've seen for previous sets. So will that actually make it more readily available? No. Unfortunately not, but that makes it more valuable, which, is good if you're investing in, but only if you can get it at an actual good price, near MSRP. Otherwise, you're going to be spending $200 for an ETB box, even if the quantity that's being produced is considerably higher than what we've seen for the past few sets, especially a specialty set like Ascended Heroes is. All of these factors kind of contribute to a market that is simply correcting after being so sky high for really a year and a half, maybe almost 2 years. I think back and I really look at like the beginning point of all this crazy hype in the market as being Surging Sparks. That's kind of the beginning of it. And you could even take a step back, not Shrouded Fables, but before that was Twilight Masquerade with that Greninja card, Chase card on there. But if you look at everything from that viewpoint, at some point the market has to correct and come back down to earth. It won't be permanent. It's not like everything's going to crash and the market's disappearing and we're all screwed. No, that's not what's happening. Things are just coming back down to a more healthy level, which is great for everyone, for collecting, for investing, for opening, for anyone. So these are good things. And there's really no reason to think that any of the chase cards that people have been buying or will be buying for any of the last few sets and future sets won't appreciate in value. They absolutely certainly will, as they've done time and time again, as the market has showed us. But the big caveat to this is they probably won't increase so quickly the way that some of these big chase cards have, where you're seeing, these 20, 30, 40, 50+% gains only over a few months of time. As in any speculative market, this is actually a good time to buy, as opposed to what people may be saying, which is don't buy, everything's crashing, avoid Pokemon cards. No, that's actually not the right attitude. If you want to collect, if you want to invest, now that things hopefully are becoming more affordable, maybe just like if you look at sealed products, right? Yeah, they're still over MSRP, unfortunately, and that, I mean, I don't know how much that can realistically change in the near term, but at the very least, if you can get something closer to MSRP, yeah, you can sit on that to invest in, and it will appreciate over time. You're just not going to see these crazy, gains where you can buy something that was $50 and then you can immediately sell it for twice or more of that on the market, and that's probably not a healthy thing long term anyway. And that's especially not healthy in the immediate for short-term scalpers who are trying to, do the quick flips. They're the ones who are probably affected by this the most, and that's certainly not a bad thing, and I think that's probably a common sentiment, right? For people who are trying to either collect or invest in Pokemon cards too. So that's another factor to consider in the entirety of all of this alleged market crashing, which it really isn't. It's just correcting after being so unhealthy for a period of time. Which isn't to say that it won't go back up. It will go back up. Of course it will. These are Pokemon cards. They're highly collectible, and the demand for them is huge and still is, even for these less desirable sets. It simply means that for now, the prices are going to go down on certain cards, while at the same time, other prices are certainly climbing for other cards. So it's this type of correction that is kind of to be expected in the market, especially when it's on the heels of this 30th anniversary set that is very quickly coming, and that is going to dominate the market for Pokemon cards over the ensuing months. And hopefully there is a lot of supply of that to go around so that everyone can get an opportunity to buy and open and invest in it. Ultimately, I think what we're seeing is fairly predictable. I think if you look at the checklist for these most 3 recent sets, it isn't that surprising to see the market correcting the way it is. And that market correction is a good thing for everyone, for anyone who wants to just, buy in cards, open for fun, invest on them. Everyone wants to see their collection go up in value and in price, even if you're not like a serious investor. And that will still happen no matter what, and that's because even though the supply is so huge now, so is the demand, and that demand isn't going anywhere. And thus, the value and the prices on these cards will rise, even if in the immediate term they're going down. And I think that's a good thing for everyone. So what do you think? Do you think that the market is crashing and everything's going into a major collapse and prices are going to continue to plummet? Or do you see this the way I kind of see it, in that it's just a normal part of the market cycle? It's not going to trend up, for a super prolonged time, even though it really had been for over a year now. This type of market correction is normal. But what do you think? Reach out to me, let me know. Let's talk about it a little more, and thanks for watching.